Morning. I wanted to do, I was going to do a video on I, the jack plane, the transitional jack plane I mentioned in my last video I put out a few days back. Problem was, last night I was messing with it and I couldn't get it to adjust smoothly for some reason, and here I discovered that one of the screw that the adjustment mechanism rides on has a crack in it. I don't know if it's repairable or not, but I'll have to take it apart and see. I'm really not. I don't have any machinist tools here to correct it, but I might. It could be one of those things where I just get it cleaned up really good, file it out a little, and maybe that will correct it. So instead, I was just going to do a quick video of demonstrating this coffin smoother. I think I might have done a video on this before. What was interesting about this plane is that sorry, I heard something behind me there. What is interesting about this plane is I purchased it because, well, I didn't really intend on using it, but I purchased it because most of the time I saw these coffin smoothers for sale. They usually the body of the actual body, the physical body of the plane was usually just really messed up, and just it looked like they'd been dropped or had a lot of water damage, or they were covered in all kinds of paint and goo. For this, in this case, the body was in really nice shape. It didn't need to be flattened, but that's you're not going to find a wood body plane anywhere. It doesn't need to be flattened. It's not old, at least. But the iron was really in pretty rough shape. It was not, beside the rust. Most old tools don't have rust, but it was rolled over. There was a lot of dings in it. It looked like somebody, whoever had previously owned it or came across it, looks like they tried to sharpen it or grind it, maybe with a grinder, like a power grinder, and they just didn't know what they were doing, probably, and it really just it took a long time to get this corrected. It was a few hours of using I did use a guide, and I use this guide here. You can see how often I use this. It's just covered in dust, this Veritas guide here. Oops. But I had a regrind. I did not have a power grinder at that time that I would use for woodworking tools, at least, and it took me a few hours just to get the bevel even and no more nicks and unrolled. I wish I had some photos of it. I would put it on the blog just to show it, but I didn't take any before photos. But then once I got it sharpened, it actually has turned out to be a really good tool. So I just wanted to do a quick demonstration. I have here a piece of just scrap oak. It's actually a little uneven. Oops. These are good shavings for oak, and I probably can get them. They're fairly thin, but I could probably get them a little bit thinner. This one. And there we go. This oak board is. I'm trying to get it flattened too. It's not sure what happened to it. It's taking very fine shavings now. Basically as fine as you would get with a Bailey style plane. Let's see if I can get the gossamer shavings. would do the flat green, but it will probably, I don't have a stop set up here, and my bench is still a bit of a mess. Let's try a little bit more. That was a little bit too thick. That should be with the green. There we go. These are really, forgive me, I told you before, my hands are not great at doing this, but these are very fine shavings. You can't really even hold them without breaking them apart. And this is a pine. I was at the throw away. Once again, this is, see how thin I can get these. Just super fine shavings. Nice and to me, these you don't really need to go much thinner than that. I would guess it's barely a few thousandths of an inch thick. We'll see if we can now. And these are just, you see, they're really see-through. So yeah, these planes can be really viable, even in a modern wood shop. The one thing I found with this is, you wouldn't think of it, but this is as heavy or heavier than your typical number 4 Stanley plane, and it does just as nice a job with a little practice. I sharpened the iron right before I did this video. And I have the stones here. I didn't want to bore everybody with another sharpening video. I mean, you've seen me do it 5 or 6 videos in a row. But yeah, these are good tools, and you can find them fairly inexpensive on most, like places like eBay, some auction sites, stuff like that. You just have to watch. I've found that when restoring these type of planes, not just these, but any wood, old wood planes, if the body's shot, they're really not, in my opinion, not worth restoring, because you're basically building a new plane when it comes down to it. Which one of the first planes I ever restored, wood planes, it was so bad that I made a new plane. I made this. This was like my first ever attempt at making a plane. I'm not sure if this is sharper. I haven't used it in a long time. But yeah, it still works. There we go. Pardon me. So to me, the key is a lot of people look for these. They look for a good iron, which if you're planning on using it for something else, that's great. That's because the tool steel on most of these planes is really, really well made, and with some work you can have I like the steel better than any modern steel I've ever seen. And I don't think it's an issue that modern makers cannot make good steel. This type of steel is more money to produce, and it is more time. There's a lot more time involved. Where like tool steel like A2 can be, I think the manufacturing process is a lot simpler, or at least a lot more streamlined than it is for this old tool steel. I forgive me, I wouldn't know the I was able to call it the Rockwell level of hardness or what type of. I just that's not my thing. I don't get too deep into that. I have I have a real job, so I don't have time to worry about every bit of woodworking minutia that there is. But if you have any experience woodworking, you know when you're sharpening, you know when something's sharpened, you know if it's good steel almost immediately because by the way it sharpens, and that's the case with these type of planes that I found. Most of the tool steel is excellent. It's as good as I've ever seen, and it's, as I said, this plane is probably from the middle of made in the middle of the 19th century, maybe earlier. I don't see a date on here. It is a plane by Varville, York, and I know they are a very respected manufacturer. And in this case, this plane was a great value. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it. It wasn't expensive though at all. It was the same price I would have paid for a beat up Stanley number 4 that was in decent shape but needed restoration as well. So, and it's been a valuable tool. I've used it quite a bit. I use this as much as I use the Stanley planes. I don't do a lot of hand planing anymore. I usually only the two times I use hand planes are for edge joining, and for smoothing. I don't flatten. I don't do the whole. I'm going to take a rough board and plane it down, and I don't have time for that. I don't have hours for. So if you enjoy it, great. God bless you, but I don't really want to get into that anymore. The last time I did that, I made a campaign desk. It sort of looked like it was modeled after something I saw at Mount Vernon, and it was a demonstration there, and it was really cool. So I decided to make my own version of it, and based off of some photos I saw on the internet. But I used some rough sawn walnut for that, and I flattened that whole thing by hand, and it took hours. But more importantly, it just made a huge mess in my garage. If we didn't use the garage for, my wife parks in here, and we have a freezer and a refrigerator in here as well. If we didn't use it for other things, I wouldn't necessarily care as much. Also, my hot water heater and my furnace is in a side room in the garage. So I try not to make any big messes in here. And hand planing a board from rough to finish is a big mess. So that's why I don't do it, and I don't have the inclination or time to do it anymore. But maybe when I'm retired, it'll be a different story, if I'm still kicking. But either way, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do come across one of these planes, and it looks like it's in decent shape, looks restorable, and you're possibly interested in going for it, I would recommend, give it a try, because these do work. These do work quite well, and they're fun to use too. They have a real feel to them. I like the sound they make when they plane. It's almost like a throaty. It's a little bit different than a iron plane. So yeah, give it a shot and see what you think. I think it would be. If you want to go the route, if you want to go the old tool route, this is probably a really good place to start. So if you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll try to answer. Thanks, and have a good one.